work here in UCD Smurfit, but I'm also a director on the board of AHECS. So it's in that capacity I'd like to welcome everyone here today. And I'm very pleased to be able to welcome a colleague from UCD, Kathy Orr, who's an instructional designer at UCD, and she will go through now the Universal Design Beyond the Classroom online digital badge program. And I am very happy to pass over to Kathy in a moment. Just a few little housekeeping things to get us sorted. First is keep the mics off, please. Just those background noises can be a little bit off-putting at times. This session is recorded, so we will allow everybody to view it at a later stage as well. And finally, the Q&A. So we will have time at the end for Q&A. So if you want to put those questions into the chat or save them until the end, and you can come on and ask the question directly. It's up to you. But let's get going then, and I'll pass over to Kathy. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks very much, Michael. I'll just share my screen here. Can everybody see the full screen there?
Perfect.
Great. Okay. Well, hello, everybody, and thank you so much for the invitation to present to you today at AHECS. Now, I'm really been looking forward to this, to sharing our learning from the Universal Design Beyond badge. So this session will look at the idea of what is universal design. How might it be relevant to your context as higher education careers and employability professionals? And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about the new Beyond the Classroom digital badge, the background to it, a little bit about what's in it, and then the autumn rollout. And there'll be an opportunity for questions. You can either turn on the mic or write them in the chat. So I'd like to kick off, first of all, by hearing a little bit about your experience, if possible. What do you know about universal design? Have you incorporated universal design principles in your own practice already? And maybe somebody, since I'm on full screen, maybe somebody might keep an eye on the chat and read them out to me, if that would be okay. Any examples where you've kind of used it, or maybe you've done the digital badge already?
Just keeping an eye on the chat there for you. No volunteers so far.
No volunteers so far.
All I can say, I suppose, from a UCD perspective, yeah, we're all our career service is going through the phases, as it were, and we've kind of got through the first phase at the moment. Some of our team already have done this in the past, but we hope to have the entire team done by the end of the summer.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, fantastic. So, anybody else completed the badge or using universal design principles in their own context?
Well, so you said I'll read out the comments, will I, Kathy?
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
So Orla says, I did the digital badge, but did not do the assignment part at the end.
Okay.
Actually, that sounds familiar. Might have done that myself a couple of years ago. And Brianna has completed the badge previously.
Great, great. Oh, that's brilliant. So, yeah, so I just thought I'd throw that open to, obviously some people may have experience of universal design in their own context already. So what is universal design? You'll forgive me if you kind of know some of this already. So universal design started in the built environment around the idea of designing in accessibility and inclusion from the start rather than retrofitting it. So universal design is the creation of a service, a product, or an environment which is as accessible and usable by as many people as possible. So regardless of your age, your size, or your disability, you'll still be able to access and use an environment as fully as possible. So you'll see three examples here. There's a tap there. So a universally designed tap would pass the closed fist test. So if somebody had arthritis or a mobility issue, that they would still be able to use the tap. The one at the top is obviously a really familiar example of universal design. So that is the automatic doors, so they can be used by somebody pushing a pram, somebody with a mobility issue. They're designed for to be as accessible for as broad a range as possible. And the watch there is called the Bradley timepiece. It was a watch designed for the visually impaired, but you'll see it's quite a nice design and it's aesthetically pleasing. So actually it's come to the point where 90% of the orders are now from sighted people, because it's so attractive and it's functional. Hello? Oh, sorry. Maybe somebody hasn't got their microphone on mute there. Sorry, I thought somebody was asking a question. So yeah, so that idea that if you design universally, if you design for the kind of the margins, of people who might need it from a
So Kathy is muted there for a second. We unmute Kathy. Oh.
Can you hear
There
me?
you go, Kathy, you're back.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure how that happened. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Now, can you see me? And can you see the screen? Sorry, more
Back again,
important.
back again, back
Okay,
again.
sorry about that. For some reason, it's not, the slides aren't moving. Oh, here, we're grand. So that broadened out into universal design in education beyond the kind of the built environment. And there are a number of frameworks which can be used to adopt the principles of universal design in education. I suppose the best known one is Universal Design for Learning. That was developed by an organization called CAST. And those are principles which would help us design for the diversity of the student population rather than this mythical average student. So, here in UCD, 30% of our learners would now come through an access route. So that would be either coming through the HERE pathway for people from with a low socioeconomic background, or the DARE pathway through a disability route. It could include people coming who haven't done a Leaving Cert or are coming through the further ed or QQI route, also mature learners and part-time learners. So there's such a wide diversity of learners across all of our student populations in every organisation now, and universal design is kind of a thinking or a mindset which helps us to make sure that our services and what we're offering is as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. With that idea that inclusion is everybody's business, it shouldn't be confined just to our access department. It shouldn't just be for maybe students who have disclosed disability or have come through a special pathway. That really, when we're thinking, we should be thinking as broadly as possible about whether our services are available to everybody. And with that idea in mind, which is what we all aspire to, that everybody feels welcome and that they belong and that they're valued at our institutions. So universal design helps us to build in accessibility at the start of when we're thinking about a new program or something new that we're rolling out, or whether we're involved in a redesign, and so that we don't have to kind of retrofit a solution afterwards, or that a student has to ask us for something different or put up their hand and disclose a disability. So universal design supports those on the edges of the design process, but good design, as we saw in the built design, the built environment examples, it works for all. So that is what universal design aspires to do. And then the universal design badges, there are currently 2 badges, and they are a collaboration between AHED and UCD Access and Lifelong Learning. And they're part of the National Forum Open Access Digital Badge Initiative, which is on their platform, the National Forum platform for open courses. So the National Platform have supported this initiative, and they host it on their forum. So to date, over 3,800 individuals have completed the first badge, which was the badge that was mentioned in the chat there by some participants, the Teaching Universal Design for Teaching and Learning badge. And that's both, it's right across the tertiary sector, so both the further ed and the higher education sector. And both badges are designed to provide staff with an opportunity to reflect on their practice, maybe make one or two small changes to embed universal design to enhance the student's experience and maybe increase student engagement. And the two badges, the first one, the original one, was the Universal Design for Teaching and Learning. And then this new one, which was piloted in the autumn, was the Universal Design Beyond the Classroom badge. So really the principles are still, it's still based on that Universal Design for Learning framework. But some of the case studies and the examples, the feedback was with the Teaching and Learning badge, because it was primarily aimed at teaching staff and members of faculty, people couldn't necessarily see themselves in the examples and case studies. You know, it didn't map to their practice. So this Universal Design Beyond the Classroom badge was specifically designed for professional staff who work to support students and learners across the higher educational and the further educational sector. So this autumn there will be a national rollout of both badges, and it will be the first full rollout of the Universal Design Beyond the Classroom badge. And we hope to have up to 1,500 participants on both badges again. So the national rollout means that UCD and AHED coordinate the rollout. There are local facilitators in your organisation who would put the groups together and facilitate the groups, but that a lot of the administration work is taken, you know, out of the hands of, because we appreciate that it's quite a big burden administratively. So that's why there's the national rollout every year. But organisations are free to take the materials. They're open educational resources. They're available on the National Forum platform, and they're available to download. So if you want to do a local rollout and tailor it to your own needs, it's possible to do that as well. If you think it's something that would be relevant, or possibly the time of year of the national rollout isn't, you know, isn't suitable to yourselves, and you want to do a rollout at another time of the year. So what is the Beyond the Classroom badge? So it's a free 10-week introductory course on universal design. It provides participants with strong practical know-how of universal design. So it's designed to be really practical and to give you the principles and also examples so that you can see how to apply it in your own role. It will impart knowledge and practical tips to empower student engagement and to support staff to make their contribution to the student experience more flexible and as accessible as possible to all. It's available to anybody who is working in further ed or higher ed, and it's designed, as I mentioned before, for staff who may not be in a direct student-facing role but work beyond the classroom in Ireland. So what does beyond the classroom mean? So those involved in student support and engagement. So these are the examples of some staff who were involved in the pilot, but it's not limited to those roles. So we had people who were working, you know, in careers and guidance, in the library services, in the registry and admissions, and marketing. It's just, I think there's no limit really to estates as well. I think particularly interesting around the built environment, some people from IT services. So the idea is that anybody, that we're all working to the same purpose of making our environment as inclusive as possible. So some details about the Beyond the Classroom badge. The amount of work involved, I mean, there is a little bit of a commitment there. So it's 25 hours required in total, and that averages out at 2.5 hours a week. You know, it's not fixed at 2.5 hours. So if you have a kind of a heavier schedule one week, than another, it's possible, you know, to make it up. It's over 10 weeks long. So the first 5 weeks are really getting to grips with the content, and that's by way of 5 interactive online modules. Those are self-directed, so you work through those at a time and pace that suits you, and they're up on the National Forum Moodle. And then, so there are 4 peer group meetings across the 10 weeks. People are put in a peer group of sort of 4 or 5 of your, it's usually participants from the same organization where that's possible. So it's really an opportunity to experience the badge content together, to reflect on it. And the feedback has kind of shown that it's nearly people's favorite part. They, you know, they love sharing experiences and, you know, gaining insights into, you know, what's worked in, you know, for one particular person, and really they get that feeling of being on a course together. So there are 3 webinars. These are recorded. Facilitators also put on welcome and drop-in sessions. You know, so if you've any queries or you want to run something past somebody around your redesign, those are spaces that are available to you. So as I say, the first 5 weeks are really getting to grips with the content and coming up with some ideas for your redesign activity. So that's what you submit at the end in order to get the badge. And so you spend the second 5 weeks really implementing one small change in your practice, monitoring how it goes, getting feedback, ideally from students or from your peers, as to the impact of that change over the 5 weeks, writing it up in a template, into a redesign template, and then submitting that, and also discussing it in your final peer group meeting, and showcasing it to your peers and talking them through it. There's also the option, if you would like to be a facilitator of either digital badge, there's some optional content which you can work through. That's 5 hours extra. And then once you have that badge, that would enable you to roll out the Universal Design Badge in your own organization. So the learning outcomes for the Beyond the Classroom Digital Badge are these. At the end of the class, at the end of the course, you'll know a little bit about the accessibility legislation, which we have to adhere to in an educational setting. You'll be able to reflect on the diverse needs of learners, and identify, you know, how learners' circumstances can impact their experience, you know, whether they're having to work full-time or part-time to, you know, to support their studies, whether they have a disability, whether they're a long time out of education, and or maybe English isn't their first language. You know, all of these things can, you know, make people maybe feel locked out of learning, or it can put up barriers that, you know, by universally designing our environments, we can seek to address those. And also to reflect on how we can remove those barriers to access, and how we can apply the principles of universal design to our own context. So the content of the badge we were trying to make it as practical as possible. So we didn't want it to make it, you know, dry, that we're talking endlessly about the framework and the theory of it. So we've really tried um, to showcase what people are doing on the ground and what's been working well. So and we were trying to adopt the principles of universal design ourselves when we were involved in designing the badge. So we're using multimedia. So we've written text, case studies. All of the content is downloadable in a Word document. And then we have video case studies as well. So we're really trying to practice what we preach and make the content as multimedia as possible. So I travelled this time last year, I travelled around the country from north, south, west and east, to capture all of the good practice that was going on. And there was an open call for case studies. And these are some of the institutions which we gathered the video case studies from, of people who are supporting learners in further ed and higher ed. So they're short, kind of manageable case studies, and they're included in the case content, in the course content. So this is just some photos of a few of the people that were involved in gathering all of the case study video, and really have to thank them for their contributions. It included students and staff. as I say, from many different institutions, and made for a very rich case studies and examples. So just keeping my an eye on the time, sorry. Okay, so what does universal design in education look like in practice? What will you be able to learn and reflect on in the course? So I've just pulled out a few examples here. So here is our student desk, UCD student desk. And this is, universal design of the built environment is so important. And it's not just really about complying with the regulations. I think we have to try and go beyond that, and maybe get input from students, meet them where they are, and talk through any difficulties that they're having around access. So this is just an example of an environment that's been universally designed, and just it's food for thought. I'll not go into it now, but the different heights in the desks, the color schemes for wayfinding for people with a visual impairment, the different ways that you can interact and get help, whether it would be email, phones, different opening hours, maybe for mature learners or people who aren't on the campus all the time. So that's really, there's a little bit of that to think about. Um, we also go into how can you make your events as accessible as possible for as broad a range of people as possible. How can you make your communications as possible? I've tried to make this slide deck as accessible as possible. Everything's left aligned. I'm using sans serif font. I'm avoiding using bold. You'll notice in the slides, I haven't made the background white. And there's all of these principles that we have to think about when I'm going to, well, I think best practice would be that you shared it in advance with participants. Particularly if you're going along to a lecture, that the lecture, I know this is a little bit controversial, but that the lecture slides might be up there beforehand, so if people do need a little bit of extra support with listening to it, or captions or whatever, that could be put in place. So all of those things to think about. How do you make your communications and your presentations as accessible as possible? I'm sure you're maybe all aware of the accessibility tab that's in PowerPoint and Word as well. It won't catch everything, but it'll, at the bottom when you're preparing a slideshow, it'll say accessibility investigate. You click on that and it may have some things to throw up around maybe color contrast, or whether you've added alt text to your images, so that they could be read out for somebody with a visual impairment. So that's the bottom left. You'll see this is a prompt that you receive when you go onto X or some of the social media sites around adding an image description to make your images as accessible as possible. So it's a sunny beach with palm trees, a blue sky, deck chair, and a striped umbrella to shade it. So just trying to, to make your image description as vibrant as possible to match your photo. And then could anybody shout out why this graph is more accessible than a graph which, a graph of some other type, which might be kind of red, blue, and green? Or
is it for people with color blindness? No.
exactly, yeah, exactly. Or if you happen to print the graph out, if you print your slides out and it comes out in grayscale. But exactly, yeah, you're giving people another way to distinguish between the three lines. So you've got your close together dots and your larger dashes, and then another color. Yep, that's it. That's it, exactly. So it's just really designing in flexibility and to your systems and your services, in so far as you possibly can. So the autumn rollout, just some key dates for you. Registration opens on the 26th of August. I will send on, well, I make sure that, your society is included in the, gets the link, and so hopefully that will be disseminated to you. So if you're interested in doing the badge, you'll be sent a link to fill in an expression of interest. So that would be opening on the 26th of August, closing on the 24th of September, and then the dates for kick-off of the badge, it starts on the 7th of October and it finishes on the 15th of December, with the badges being issued in the new year. And there's a little online graduation ceremony just to celebrate with everybody nationwide then after that. So I'm repeating myself here. How do I sign up? So you complete the expression of interest form when the registration opens on the 26th of August. So I think that's me. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm really happy to take any questions if anybody has any questions. I'll just maybe stop sharing there.
Thanks, Kathy. Just to add, before somebody asks a question, that Deirdre from UCC has completed the UDL. So there's a few more people that came in afterwards to say they had completed.
Oh, great.
And Deborah did the Beyond the Classroom pilot, found it brilliant, and has a assignment which she wrote for a career readiness digital badge, which is currently being rolled out across ATU. So
Wow.
that's fantastic.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So it's obviously had quite an impact already with Deborah. That's super. So yeah, as I say, it's designed to be very practical, and I think that the idea of the +1 approach. I don't know if you've heard that you make one small change to what you're currently doing to try and make it manageable rather than starting to scrap everything. Oh, thanks, Derek. Yeah, that's the idea. You just make it. It could be as simple as one person submitted their redesign, and it was that they hold. They have monthly meetings, and they were going to make it a rolling agenda item on that meeting to check the accessibility of their website. There's something called Silk Tide, which gives you a score as to how accessible your website is, so that they were going to check it and just try and push that number up every month. And I thought that was it's such a simple idea, that +1. And yet very effective if you manage to keep looking at your website and making it even more accessible. So
what was the name of that website again? Silk Tide.
Silk Tide, yeah, Silk Tide, yeah. The other one I would recommend for institutions, I'm sure it's in some institutions already, is called Ally, ALLY, Ally. And I mean, it's probably primarily aimed at faculty staff, but I think it's useful for everybody. So it's twofold. Anything that you put up, Brightspace would use in UCD. It'll give you a score of how accessible it is, and and tips to improving it. And then from a student's point of view, they can download whatever content you've put up there in a Braille ready format, in an HTML format, so they could watch it on the go on their mobile phone, maybe on a commute. It just gives that they don't have to put up their hand and say, I'd like a special version for me. That they can just their inclusion is embedded in within your learning platform. So I think that's another one that's really good. So well, thanks, Fiona, that's great. I don't know what Deborah thought of did you think the time commitment was very onerous, or anybody else that's done the badge? Or...
Yeah, I don't mind coming in there. Yeah, no, it certainly is something. This is Deb, sorry, from AHECS Liger. It's certainly something that you perhaps need to schedule in, which I didn't. So I did kind of go into it kind of going, oh, this sounds brilliant. And then I kind of had to manage it. But it was definitely worth the effort. But I think my advice to people would be, to schedule in that time commitment that's necessary just to get the most value out of it. There was so much learning and, like you say, such diverse content, and it really did stretch my thinking and my imagination. And those peer groups are brilliant in terms of not only building relationships perhaps with people. I was actually put in a peer group with people within the same institution, not only kind of stretching your understanding and awareness of what other people are doing, but then also working collaboratively in a context that is supportive for the whole student body. So yeah, brilliant.
That's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did the badge as well, Kathy. This is Deirdre here, and
Hi, Deirdre.
hi, Kathy. And that was really helpful. Thanks for the presentation. And I suppose there's the kind of work of retrofitting, if you like, content you've already created. You know, it does change the way you think about everything. I mean, first of all, it's great to be conscious of all these when you're creating new content, and it's usually helpful to make sure that you stick to those. But then there's the kind of content you've already created. So I found it useful though from that perspective, because you do have to reevaluate everything you've done and maybe look at how it needs to be adjusted. I mean, we use Canvas a fair bit, so the Canvas Ally Hub is very useful. Sorry, what is it? The Canvas Ally tool. Yeah, it gives you a score automatically on everything you create in Canvas. And if you're in the green, you know, you're kind of okay. If you're yellow or red, you know, there's work to be done. So I find that very handy. But it's important work. And I suppose we've had two actually excellent sessions in UCC, kind of open town hall sessions now, you know, each this year and last year. And it's to raise awareness of it, because ultimately every single person who teaches is going to have to manage their own UDL really and make sure that they're complying with it, you know. So yeah, so it's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. And people get used to seeing documents looking a certain way, you know. So I suppose the most accessible document is a Word document, or if you're sending somebody something, don't change it into a PDF if you possibly can help it, you know, or if you are oh, sorry, Derek, no, it's free, completely free. Yeah, so yeah, no, that's what I tended to bundle things up in a PDF and send them to people, but actually you're locking people out of it, anybody who might use a screen reader, you know, and so I think, or you'll have to tag the PDF so that a screen reader could read it and it'll read out alt text. So I think that's, you know, even kind of small things, or you know, maybe changing the opening hours, or just adding in a, you know, that you're open as maybe late a certain evening, or it can be, it's just maybe a mindset rather than you know, very rigid rules or anything. But you kind of, once you start thinking about it, you kind of run away, like where would you stop really, you know. So but even just the simple tips around you know, what makes the documents accessible, because we're all creating documents and content all the time, so I think even those are really useful. So
I think that's probably it from everybody, Kathy.
okay.
I think that's a fantastic presentation. I learned so much. I thought I'd done a bit of this already, but obviously I haven't done enough. I really enjoyed your recommendations there around some of the little tools we could use. And yeah, of course, even the staying open a little bit later on one evening per week, we do that. And
great.
You know, there's a great take up on that. So it is about the small changes as we embrace this whole idea of UDL. And thank you so much, Kathy, for sharing. And thank you so much to our audience for your inputs. And it's wonderful to see the community of AHECS once again coming together on such an important topic. So looking forward to how this develops, and maybe in a year's time we'll catch up and see, well, did you grab those 1,500 people to jump on this program? So thank you so much to everyone.
Great.
We'll give you back a few minutes of your lunchtime, and let's catch up again, hopefully at biennial. That's when I'll probably see most of you again. So thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful day.